the FIFA Club World Cup has actually sparked significant controversy due to its expansion, scheduling conflicts, and concerns over player well-being, with critics labeling it a cash grab driven by FIFA's financial motives. Expanding from a 7-team tournament played in December with little fanfare to a 32-team mega event that will be held every 4 years, this change aims to create a more meaningful global club competition, but it has drawn criticism, as I say, for its potential impact on the football calendar and player health. More on this now. Let's speak to Tshepang Mailwane, who is a sports journalist at Laduma, joining us via the telephone. Good afternoon, Tshepang, and thank you for your time. So this has been an object of fascination for me personally. Just this criticism about this format. Before we get into the criticism, explain how the current format differs from the Club World Cup as we've known it over the last few years.
Yeah, good afternoon to Lasizwe. Thank you for having me. Yeah, different in that obviously before you'd have 7 teams participating in this competition, and now you've got 32 teams, which is basically like a whole FIFA World Cup. But now you've got the 32 teams participating, and it's group phases, where in the past the 7 teams would play each other, and it would be, you play the first game, you lose, you basically get knocked out, and you'd have to play like a playoff to maybe finish number 6 or number 5 to determine who finishes basically from number 2 to number 7. So it's different in that there's more teams, there's group stage now, there's knockout phase, last 16, quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. And in the past, though, I know the European team would join, I think, only in the semi-final and not at the beginning of the competition. So teams like Real Madrid or Chelsea, Manchester City, the ones that have won the UEFA Champions League, would have the, unfair advantage, maybe because of ranking, of starting the competition only in the semi-finals. And most of the time, these teams would go on to win the competition because maybe they've had more rest compared to the other teams that started the competition from the beginning.
So in terms of its format right now, it's pretty much similar to how the Nations World Cup plays itself out, right? As you say, group stages, then last 16, then quarterfinals, etc.
Yes, basically like a FIFA World Cup. Now it's just the clubs campaigning. So obviously a lot more for the players because already it's been a long season. Now let's talk about our own Sundowns, for example. They've played 30 games in the local league. They played Nedbank Cup, Carling Knockouts, MTN 8, and they still got to the final of the Champions League. That's over 50 games in a season. And then they still have to go to the Club World Cup. And then somehow they need to fit in some rest before pre-season to prepare for next season, which is, we don't know when it's going to start, but it's usually around August, September.
Yeah. And that's the reality of many of the clubs. Does it talk, Tshepang, to that concern about player well-being? And some of the criticism has actually come from clubs themselves, including clubs in Europe.
Yeah, true. I mean, for the players, it's a heavy load. I can imagine how some of them are struggling at the moment. And you've seen it maybe with some of the European teams because they've had a tough time against your so-called your South American opponents. And when you look at the schedules of some of the European teams, because I don't follow too much obviously of South American football, but like I said, these guys end up playing more than 50 games, towards 60 games in a season. So you wonder how much concern there is for players. Yes, it does benefit the team because look at how much each team sort of will be getting from participating in this competition. But for the players themselves, it's going to be very difficult. And you wonder when they're going to recover for next season. And what does it mean for the quality of football we're going to get because you're going to get players who are tired.
The other big talking point, Tshepang, has been about the qualification criteria. The fact that you had I think it's called Auckland City, beaten 10-0 by Bayern Munich, talks to the world, the gulf of experience and, performance between some of the teams that are at this World Cup against those that should have been but are not at this World Cup. Talk to me about that controversy.
Yeah, look, the reality is that you're going to have many of those games because the quality in the different continents obviously differs. Europe is where football, like football heaven, we would call it that, and that's where some of the best teams in the world are. and Auckland City in this case would be the best from their region. And being the best in your region does not always mean that you're able to compete against some of the better sides in the South American and European region. Same with our African teams. Here at home, they do so well. I mean, Al Ahly, look how well they've done over the years in the CAF Champions League, but when they get to that level, it's a whole other ball game. Sundowns, at least, I think they've shown a lot of quality and shown how much they've improved as a team, but still, you get teams like Dortmund who have more experience and know how to manage these types of games, and they don't stress too much. So it shows you the level of quality, the level of experience, but it doesn't mean that these teams should not be exposed to that level. That's how they're going to improve. Your Auckland City, Mamelodi Sundowns, and whoever else participates, hopefully they learn from this experience and come back next time, and or whoever else comes back next time from these regions will be based on what has been learned in this competition.
All right, let's leave it there for this afternoon. We didn't even get to touch on the empty seats at the stadia because of the sales tickets and how those have not gone according to plan. That's Tshepang Mailwane there, who is a sports journalist at Laduma.